Good morning, good evening. Here I go again, folks. This is what happens when you run shows in the morning and in the evening. Good evening. Welcome to Tuna Commander Galpohkpa Chesson Talk Show. I'm sorry we came out a little late. We're trying to get things set up. So we're here, and I hope you all will have the time to join us as we start our program. Tonight, I have a special interview with Lisa Ringling, Rhode Island Black Business Association's president. She's also the president of Lisa Ringling and Associates. Without further ado, let me bring on my guests so we can begin our show. Lisa Ringling, how are you?
I am doing great. Thank you for being here. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Yeah, it's so good to have the great Lisa Ringling of Rhode Island here with me. Lisa, you are a versatile woman. You have so many skills and training. You come from a financial background. And it would do me injustice to tell my people about you because you're a woman with a wealth of knowledge and experience and organizational skills. So tell us who Lisa Ringling is.
So let me just say thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to share with your guests today. I love to tell my story that I'm just a simple girl from Jamaica, born and raised in Kingston, Jamaica. Grew up in poverty, and I got to the States as a teenager. And I think through access to opportunities and resources, I was able to go off to college, earn a college degree, and enter the financial industry. And again, I've spent the last 20 years in banking. So, when somebody said, describe who Lisa Ringling is, first and foremost, I am a woman of God, a Black woman, a woman that really connects with everyone. So I don't necessarily get caught up on whether titles, where you've been, and all of those things. For me, it's really around how do we connect with people and how do we make sure that we're meeting folks where they're at. So Lisa Ringling is a proud daughter, mom, of course, and a community activist, a business owner, and just a person that likes to get things done. So you noted, whether my banking experience or my education achievement, but for me, I'm all about just getting stuff done. So if you're looking for a change agent, somebody that's going to really move the dial in a meaningful way, that's me. So I used to consider myself a banker by day and a community activist by night because I've done a lot of work in the community, specifically with the Rhode Island Black Business Association. And I always say, I'm the banker that loves to really roll up her sleeves and get out there and do work for the community because it's really about all of us growing and thriving together. So hopefully I've done that justice. I don't necessarily like to talk about myself. I think people can read about me. But certainly I am, a great resources. I come with different kinds of skill set. You're absolutely right. But I'm one that just wants to be a community person, right? I'm a servant leader. So that's kind of where I pride myself to be more someone that just get it done, right? It's about us. And it's not necessarily about me. You could tell I don't really like to talk about myself.
Because you do have a business too, Lisa, right?
I do. I am, after spending 20 years in corporate America in the banking world, I actually left the banking world just in February, but I had this company, RANGLIN and Associates. I actually established the business back in 2012, so it's been around for a while. And since I've left my banking career in February, I'm actually working currently right now to scale the company. So RANGLIN and Associates is a consultant firm, and I like to tell the story. I'm going to be doing everything that I've done in corporate America for 20 years. I'm just taking it on my own and building a team. So RANGLIN and Associates, we're a consultant firm, and what we do, we work with companies across the state, companies globally, companies that really want to, what I consider, have a really diverse workforce, but they really want to deliver from a performance perspective as well as growth in terms of revenue. So we will go into an organization, augment with our staff, and really work for them in partnership with the companies that we're working with. So we work with corporation, Fortune 500, 100, nonprofits, and we also work with individuals as well, and city and state government. So we're a company that is made up of resources, different consultants, and we are equipped to just go in and do whatever the company wants us to do. The goal is to support their strategic priorities and their objectives. So we go in and it's really about partnership.
Lisa, for my viewers, could you tell us the addresses of RIBBA and your business?
Sure. So the address of the Rhode Island Black Business Association, we go by RIBBA, is 3 Regency Plaza, Suite 3 East in Providence, Rhode Island, 02903. The address for, and we're downtown we're downtown Providence. So right directly on, off Washington Street. We're in the Regency complex, but we're in building 3 and, directly 3 East. We're on the ground level. And anybody can find us. We're pretty easy to find. My consultant firm is located at 33 View Street in Providence, Rhode Island, 02908. But again, we do a lot of this work that we do currently because of COVID-19. We're doing a lot of this work virtually. So one of the things that I love to share is that we're a virtual company right now because I've been working out of my home since last March and I haven't skipped a beat, right? So that tells you that wherever you are, if you're looking for someone to come in and manage a project for you, if you're looking to really scale up your resources, if you are having some challenges, whether it's risk management, people management, we can come in as an organization and really partner with you. For example, if you have a small project or a large project, we can come in and partner with you to get that job done. So again, we have different types of resources. I have a background in technology as well as human resources. And of course, spending 20 years in corporate America, doing a lot of regulatory compliance project, risk management. So we bring a lot to the table in terms of competencies, but also credentials from a certification, and also just from, being able to do the job because we've been doing it for years.
Sounds exciting to you, huh? A lot of work. That sounds like a lot of work.
It is, and it's really exciting.
I've known you for several years with the NAACP. Then you started your Black business organization. So you're the founder, president, and CEO of the Black Business Association, right?
I am the founder and president of Rhode Island Black Business Association. That is correct.
What's the status of the Black business in Rhode Island?
So, thank you for that question. That's a great question. I think when we think about where we are with COVID-19, right? I think COVID-19 showed up last year and has impacted the business community in a very significant way. Not just Black businesses are impacted by COVID-19. When you think about small business in general, the bulk of our members or the bulk of the people that we serve at the association, or their small businesses or their micro businesses. So they have been impacted adversely by COVID-19. Again, the governor had closed the state down, so that had certainly impacted companies. People were unable to go to work. People were working remotely. What we saw within the Black business community, the fact that most of the work that they do, our clients are not able to do it via computer. They can't do it via Zoom. So as you probably know, the bulk of our businesses within the Black community, they're what you consider essential workers and people that are working for these companies. So when we're talking about essential workers, they don't have a job where you can work at your computer. For me, I was blessed to be in the banking world where I had my laptop. So I was able to go back. I think March 6th last year, I came home, and I had never been back in the office until I left in February of this year. But I had been productive the entire year because, again, I have a laptop. And if I have a laptop and a phone, you can be connected. However, when we're talking about frontline workers, we're talking about people that may work in a grocery store. Somebody could be working in the health field, right? And they don't have the luxury of working from behind a desk. And they don't have the luxury of just, being able to say, I can do this job wherever, right? So when they're essential, they're required, for instance, to be in the market, stocking the shelves for us, right? So those are the people that we want to support the most. And what we have seen is that that essential worker has been impacted drastically, and lots of people have lost their jobs. I know that we have seen it. We have been getting lots of calls from business owners who are looking for assistance to reopen now that the vaccine has been rolling out slowly here in the state. Companies are moving back and reopening very slowly and safely, but they need a lot of resources. They need a lot of help, and they're struggling. Across the nation, 40% or 41% of Black businesses have closed their doors forever. So when you think about that closure, we're talking about, jobs are gone that will never come back. And historically, the Black community has been impacted with a very high unemployment rate. So with companies closing, you can imagine that unemployment rate has really gone up. We're seeing that increase not just within the Black community, but all communities across the state.
So with all this stimulus money coming in, where does RIBBA stand on receiving some of this money to help the community?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I can share with you that when the Paycheck Protection Program came last time around, the governor had allocated $50 million for small business access. And I can share with you, out of that $50 million, only 26% of those dollars came to Black and Latinos. We're talking about $13 million, right? So we're talking about $50 million had been allocated, and the Black and Brown community, from a business perspective, were able to only receive about 26% of those dollars. And I would say the biggest driver for that is really around companies were unable to access those funds because in many cases they didn't have a relationship with banks. So that's a challenge for micro and small businesses if they don't have a relationship with banks, and you need a relationship to be able to access your PPP, your payroll, your paycheck protection plan. We also saw the state of. You also saw the state.
You're talking about?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What are these protections you're talking about? They don't have.
So some of the challenges were that we saw companies were unable to evidence their loss, right? So for instance, one of the requirements is for if you had been impacted by COVID and, for instance, your business have closed, you should be able to show that loss. And what some of the companies were unable to show, they didn't have that data readily available via say QuickBooks, right, systematically. So what we have seen is that those companies that could not evidence their losses, right, within a period that was outlined by the state, they were not able to take advantage of that federal stimulus dollar that you talked about.
Wow, okay. So Are you in line to receive some of this money?
That's a great question. I hope so. We've been, there's more funding that we know that the new president has signed, and we're hoping. We've been talking to the new governor here in Rhode Island. We've also been in conversation with Commerce Corporation. They know that we existed before. We didn't get much funding. We got some, but not enough. Very recently, they actually released two proposals. We actually applied for those grants, and we submitted a proposal in order to be one of those vendors that will be selected. We're hopeful. They know that we exist. They also know that the Black and Brown community are impacted, the hardest hit by COVID-19. But not just by COVID-19. I think historically, when you think about the Black community, when you think of Black business development, the Black people in general, African American, Black Americans have been impacted by racism coupled with the pandemic, right? So it's not new to many of us, right? We have seen that our communities have been seen as invisible. We continue to be marginalized, and they're not the powers of be, I would say. Again, they know that we exist, but they're not coming to find us. I think one of the challenge for us within the Black community is to make sure that we are mobilizing and we're joining forces. So when we do go and advocate, whether it's at the State House with our governor or with elected officials, is that they see this unified front. And that is going to be really important as we think about how do we show up and demand access to these funds that are coming into the state? Also, access to the vaccine. What we're hearing is that the vaccine is not getting to some of these communities that we know are the hardest hit. So I think organization like us and other organization out there will have to keep, doing this advocating and mobilizing our communities, right, across the state to ensure that we're getting adequate share of not just these funds, but also the vaccine. We want to ensure that, when we think about the economy and we think about the economy coming back, we want to make sure that our Black community is not left behind. Historically, that has been the case, and we need to change that. But it needs all of us to work collectively together to drive those changes and to ensure that those leaders recognize that we're here in the state and that we have leaders within the Black community that are ready, weighed in, and we can, be a part of this, what I consider the growth that needs to happen. We have the capabilities, we have the skill set, and we need to be recognized and tapped and put into leadership roles so we can execute. We have lots of solutions within our communities, within our organization, but we are, in many cases, our organization are underfunded or undercapitalized. And I think we need to move from a state of not having access to a one where if funding, is coming into the state, we need to be a part of getting some of that money.
So how would that money?
Yeah, so, if we're able to get funded into our organization, right, the biggest challenge for us right now with the Rhode Island Black Business Association is limited resources, right? So last year when COVID hit, through the year, we probably saw an uptick, probably about 200, 250 businesses came through our door. Well, actually they weren't coming into the office because we were working remotely, but they were reaching out to us for different services, whether it's supply to reopen, emergency loans, and so forth. So if we as an organization is able to get some of that funding, one, we'll be able to increase our staff. We have a very small team right now. We would love to be able to increase our team so we can really go out in the field and do more for Black businesses. We know when Black businesses are actually growing and, they do create jobs. And they create good paying jobs that put people to work. And when families are doing well, right, we have a direct impact on education outcome. We have a reduction in unemployment, a reduction in crime. So it's a win-win across the board. I think we need to think about how can we look at the Black business community, the Black community as a whole, as an asset rather than a liability. And for too long, the Black community here in Rhode Island has been seen as a liability, and that needs to change. We have lots of talented people in our state, and we need to be brought to the table and be in decision-making roles. I mean, you probably know this very well in terms of looking across the state. Very few people of color, Black people, are in leadership roles, decision-making roles, right? And without having Black people in decision-making roles, you're seeing what you have seen historically for decades. Our community continues to be under-supported, right? Don't have the necessary resources. We just saw an article that came out recently. Home ownership is missing, right, in our Black community. There's also many Black families don't have $400 in the bank for an emergency, right? So it's really, really challenging. Families are struggling, and we need real action, and we need real action now. We can't wait. We've been waiting forever, and we're done waiting, right? We're demanding justice. We're demanding access to opportunities and resources because we want to thrive as well. It's not just for some people. Access and opportunity should be made available to all Rhode Islanders, not just some of us.
Do we have an accepted Black business community?
The last number that we saw from the census, there's 3,364 Black-owned businesses in the state of Rhode Island. The bulk of those, currently, there are sole proprietorships. So you're talking about only 295 that are companies with employees. So they have, more than one individual, some of them up to 40 or so. But I can tell you, think about if you have 3,364 based on the last census data that we're talking about. Can you imagine if we impacted 50, 60, 70% of those companies, and those companies create 2, 3, 5 jobs? Think of that reduction in Black unemployment that we would see in the state. Think about that for a moment, right? If each of these companies were able to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs, right? We would see a significant reduction in Black unemployment here in the state. And when you have a reduction in unemployment, what you will see is an increase in wages, an increase in the tax roll. So it's a win-win across the board, right? Families are doing better, so you'll have a better outcome for children within those families. Mom and dad are working. They may be able to purchase a home, and that goes into the tax roll again. You have development of communities. You have better health outcome, right? People are doing better. They're able to buy, better food. They're able to go to the medical prevention services. All of those things are a win-win across the board. And it's just the right things to do. For way too long, Black and poor white and marginalized communities have been left behind, and we say no more. We need to ensure that we have equal access so all Rhode Islanders can thrive, and that is the right things to do. So for us at RIBBA, Rhode Island Black Business Association, we're about what the late John Lewis will say. We want to get into good trouble because we are on the right side of history. We are fighting for access for stuff that we should get. We shouldn't be fighting this hard, right? When you think about Black folks, right, we've been fighting for decades. That's a lot of stress, when you think about it, right? So we cannot keep fighting, right? We have a new governor here in Rhode Island, and I hope that he's going to do the right thing. I hope he will mobilize all communities, the Black and brown, all communities, and ensure that all communities are thriving and gaining appropriate access so families can thrive.
Lisa, your sister is Representative Marcia Wrangling Fissell. And one of our big goals in Rhode Island over the past few years have been fighting for the increase in the minimum wage to $15. and now it's gone nationwide.
Yeah.
We're calling for it nationwide. How do you think this will help your constituents, the people you serve in your community, if their minimum wages were raised over the 5 years period as the Congress and Biden wanted to plan it? How do you think that will help us in Rhode Island?
So, I think it's a step in the right direction, right? So I hope the president is able to make this and get Congress to step up and do their jobs, right? I think, you mentioned my sister has been put in this bill for several years. And I think it would be a step in the right direction if we get to $15, because what we're talking about, the folks that needs this pay increase are the frontline workers, right? Those people that are really working up to 80 hours a week to make ends meet, and they're struggling. And I would say it's not enough, but it would certainly be a step in the right direction. So I urge the leadership team, both in the House and in the Senate, to do the right thing. I call on all Rhode Islanders to support this. I think it's a good bill, but I really hope it's done at the federal level because it needs to be mandated. It's the right thing to do. Folks are struggling when you think about food insecurity, housing insecurity. There's just a lot of disparities, lots of challenges across our beautiful state, and we need to help families. People are working up to 80 hours and they cannot make ends meet. They're struggling, multiple jobs, right? So I urge them to pass this at the obviously the federal level, but if not so at the federal level, then it needs to be passed at the state level.
Good. Lisa, you are a veteran banker and you have 20 years of banking experiences under your belt. So tell us, has the banking industry been good to us or not?
So that's a great question, right? So when you think about the banking world, right, the banking industry in general, right, they're in the business to provide services and they're in the business to make money, right? So what I can tell you is that in the Black community, in underserved communities, there has been a challenge for decades, right? We know earlier I talked about the challenges with businesses just did not have relationships with banks, right? So I can tell you that the banks are looking at, especially, for what I know, is that banks are looking at ways to partner with community organizations like ours to ensure that they're reaching the hardest hit community, to ensure that they are reaching out to communities that are underserved, reaching out to communities that may not have relationship with banks, right? There's the Community Reinvestment Act, and that's on the books today. And that basically speaks to banks, financial institution needs to provide services, different types of products for the people within the communities that they serve. So what do you mean by that? So if you have a community where they're made up of people that are low income, there needs to be some products or services that's available to those communities. So I can tell you, when I can't speak for what the banks are doing now, but I know there's always been a desire and a effort to really work with underserved communities, reach out to communities, partner with organizations like ours, but they need to do more. The data speaks for itself. We talked about earlier that many of the Black businesses were unable to take access or gain access to the Paycheck Protection Program. That was federal dollar that these banks had, and these companies were unable to take advantage of that. So clearly, based on that data alone, right, we also heard that banks were doing, when that money came out from the federal government, banks were doing business with people that they had relationship with. So if you don't have relationship with the Black community or the brown community, that tells us, right, that you are not serving that population. So I think one of the things that I urge them to do is to partner with an organization like Rhode Island Black Business Association, because we are an access point into our community. We know what our community needs are. And based on their own data, they know that they have missed the Black and Brown community. Everyone knows it, right? Because those people, those business owners, didn't have a relationship with banks. And if you didn't have a relationship with banks, you were at the bottom. There's also the issue around home ownership. We know that Black communities, historically, most people grow wealth by owning a home and they pass it on to generations. So it's passing on generational wealth. We also know that Black people here in Rhode Island, they are at the lowest level in terms of home ownership, right? Again, that comes back to that relationship with bank, that comes back to credit worthiness, that comes back to bankability. So if you have no relationship with the bank, you have no money in the bank, right? You have no saving, and they're not providing or connecting with you because they don't see you as a pipeline of future clients that is going to really increase their profitability, then we have a significant divide, right? And we got to close that. So we got to work intentionally by partnering with banks and credit unions to make sure, one, they recognize the issues that are happening within the exclusionary practice of some of these organizations where they're leaving an entire population behind. And as the state diversity and demographic shifts, right, we are seeing a growth in people of color. So I see this as a win-win, and I see it as a really critical business strategy for banks and credit unions to think about. How do they tap into this market? It's a growing market. It's a market that I believe that they should be invested in, right? Because if you have a growing market, that's people that could come right into your organization as customer. So that's a win-win. So I think, they do a lot of work around financial literacy, and that's great to help people to increase their credit scores. We also know that Black families are impacted adversely by low credit score, because if you're going to get a mortgage, if you're going to get insurance, all of those things, they look at your credit score, your credit worthiness. So, if we do get a credit card, we're at a higher interest rate, so we're paying more for these services. So I think, it's a win-win across the board when not just banks, credit union, and other large companies think about how do they do their part, right? How do they really reach back and not talk so much about handout, but rather hand up? It's really around being intentional in the work that you're doing to lift families up and get them on a path to sustainability. And that's the work that we're doing at RIBBA. We're supporting that upward mobility to get people bankable, to get established relationship with credit unions and banks so they can be on that path for generational wealth, to be able to own a home, to pass it on to the next generation, and to be able to buy and gain access to different kinds of services without paying higher interest rate or just don't have access at all. But great question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Lisa, because the banking industry takes a lot in exchange with the community. And they have to do a lot. And I hope all of these things are being furthered by RIBBA, the financial education, the banking education, all those things you talk about, building a relationship with the bank.
Critically important.
Course of learning all of this through RIBBA.
Yeah, so let me just kind of segue into sharing with you some of the great programs that we have at Rhode Island Black Business Association at RIBBA, right? So initially when the organization started, and I should mention to you that March 30th, guess what? We're going to be 10 years old, March 30th of this month. The organization will be celebrating our 10th year. Can you imagine? It flew by, right? And in conjunction with that growth and that 10 years celebration, again, we have increased our programming and services, right? So initially, when the organization formed back in 2011, our primary focus was around advocacy and small business development. Coupled with what we have seen in terms of gap within our community, we have increased our programming. So absolutely, financial literacy. We just recently established a relationship with Bank of America to do financial literacy, not just for individuals, but also for business owners, right? We know that building credit worthiness is very important, not just to business owner, but to individuals as well. And we are doing that not just with adults, but with also our mentorship program, which really service young adults 18 through 30. And we're also providing them financial literacy as well. So as part of our mentorship program, we work with high school and college and early careers, young adults, and we provide them with wraparound services. We know that financial literacy, career mobility, career support, whether resume and interview techniques, all of those things are really important for young adults when they either get out of high school, go off to college, or when they get out of college to be able to be successful in the workplace. So we are doing that today. We are doing a successful mentorship program. In addition, we have several additional ongoing training. There's also free training on our website. I should note, people should check out our website. We have online training for free, www.ri-bba.org. All of that information is on our website. In addition, in the spring here, second quarter 2021, we'll be launching our Emerging Leadership Development Program. And the Emerging Leadership Development Program is really intended to close the gap that we see here in the state. As I noted earlier, very few people of color are in leadership ranks or in decision-making role, whether in corporate sector, city government, or state government, and we need to change that. So the program that we have designed, we'll be partnering with the University of Rhode Island, and we will be kicking off that program, as I noted, in the second quarter 2021, with about 15 to 20 individuals, what we're calling them emerging leaders. And what we intend to do is to partner with companies across the state to identify people that they call high-performing, top performers within their organization, and to put them through the 6-month leadership development program and make a commitment to the person that they will put through the program from their organization, that they will support them as they grow their career, whether it's taking on additional responsibility, whether it's a promotion, but there has to be a growth span in terms of career mobility for that individual. So I think we're doing lots of great offering. We have monthly workshops and meetings, and we have just ongoing services to the business, young adults, but also to the community at large. In addition, we do a lot of advocacy work, meeting with elected officials, city and state government, federal delegation. It's going to require not just one organization, right? All of us, but we at RIBBA, we listen to the community, hence we have actually increased our programming. So initially just the business development, but now we have a wraparound service. And I encourage people to get involved with the association. We're open to anyone that wants to join. All of that information is on the organization website. Again, as I noted, they can contact the office at 401-383-1179, or they can go on our website, which is www.ri-bba.org for all of the information that I just shared.
Lisa, you are doing an extremely good job. And it's good we had this interview because a lot of people don't know all of this about RIBBA. And I think we need to bring this on more because business is essential for our communities. And the more our people get involved in business, the better it is for our lives as a whole. In our
Absolutely.
community.
I agree. Absolutely.
Let's get a more personal note now, Lisa. We've been dealing with all this banking, and money. So you're a coach. What's an executive coach?
So yes, I am a certified executive coach. So as you noted earlier in the program, I have grown my career over these 20 plus years. And I've done that, always led large initiative, indeed, a high performer, a top performer for all these years. And I have navigated corporate space, 3 banks here in Rhode Island, right? So I've worked at Fleet Bank, Bank of America, Citizens Bank. And I have the skill set that I want to transfer and share with other people that are thinking about advancing their career. So an executive coach primarily work with individuals that are looking to move from one level to the next. In some cases, they may be stuck in the career path for a long time. They may be struggling to grow within their career or to grow their team. So what a coach does, you go in and you partner with this individual or with a team or with a leader, and you find out exactly what they're trying to achieve, right? In most cases, they're looking to grow their career or to have their teams, the team members work better together. So I basically go in and identify, somebody hires me to work with an individual or a leader. And the leader may be somebody that is not sharing or delegating very well. And maybe there's some friction within the team. So I would go in and partner with that leader and understand some of the challenges that they're experiencing. But really, a coach really helps a individual, a team, or a leader really get better at what they're doing, growing their career, going for a promotion, achieving their goals and objective, but it's really to move one person from one level to the next level. And, within the nonprofit, we work with nonprofit leaders, we work with corporate leaders, we work at city and state leaders. We want to help companies and organization really advance and grow at a high level. And for too long, we've seen organizations where their workers or their employees are struggling to feel good about the work that they're doing, to feel good about how they contribute to the success of the organization. And what we want to do as an organization, a coach, what I do is really go in and identify barriers and challenges, what people are experiencing, because people know what the answers are, they have the answers. So what I do is really to help them unpack some of the barriers, some of the challenges. Somebody say, well, Lisa, how did you as a Black woman navigated 3 banks and come out as a high top performer? How did you do that? I think it's important when we're coaching individuals is that people are able to show up and be authentic. So when I go to work, I don't change. I am just going to be that same island girl, show up, but I know that I'm there to do a job. I know that I need to follow through on my commitment, and I know that I need to make my mark. So what I do when I coach people, when I mentor people, it's really around owning what you're good at. Focus on your strengths. For too often, we focus on what we're not good at. So what I help leaders do is to build a team that complements each other. So each resource on that team know what they're good at, and we capitalize on the team's strengths, and we don't worry about what we're not good at. We focus on the strength, and that's how we build high-performing teams. So what I want to do is to take what I've done over these last 20 plus years to go into organization, to go into to work with nonprofit, work with leaders, work with individuals around reaching their highest potential. In addition, you probably know we have this issue right now with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I have navigated the corporate space. I know what it's like to be the only one. I know what it's like to be a part of that change in terms of the change agent, to be be that change that you want to see in the world. What we want to do is to help organizations develop diversity and inclusion programs that work for all colleagues. We know that when a Black or brown person shows up to work, they want to show up with their authentic self. They also want to be supported. They want to know that they're valued and respected. And they also want to know that their opinion will be heard. If they have a concern, they know that they can go to HR or whomever, and it will be heard. So what, our company want to do with it, whether it's our coaching practice or a consultant practice, we do a lot of training around diversity and inclusion, diversity, equity, inclusion. We know too often companies said they're hiring, they're recruiting, but they have an issue with retention. So we want to help them to make sure that they are building the infrastructure, their work environment is ready for people of color. The environment has to be ready, because if it's not ready, they're going to come in and they're going to exit. So you're going to have this revolving door. So what we want to do is to make sure that we go into organization and help them. And we do and when we take on a role around diversity, equity, and inclusion, we go in, we do an assessment. You got to do an audit. For you to be able to drive changes in anything, you got to know your current state. And in order for you to get to that current state, you got to assess. And in order to do that assessment, you must audit your key processes, procedures, all of those things. Look at your HR practices. Where are you looking to hire? Are you only going to places where people in your organization are affiliated with, or people that they know? Because if your organization is only made up of white people and they're only referring their friends, then you're going to have an organization that is not able to celebrate the richness of our culture, right? Diversity and inclusion and equity, it's not just a nice thing to do anymore. It's the right thing to do. It's a business critical thing. We also know there's lots of data out there that talks about when companies are diversified in skill set, in people, they outperform their competitors. That tells us that's a win-win across the board. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a business critical element that must be listed as a priority, a strategic priority for any organization. If you're looking to grow, if you're looking to grow your revenue, we know that when we have diverse teams, the brain power works more. We challenge each other and we do better. So what we want to do is to frame the narrative in a way where companies celebrate diversity and inclusion and look at it as a critical ingredient for their success.
Sounding good. So to add on to that, what is this 6 belts, 6 Sigma green belt certificate? Sound like you're a karate woman. I gotta find out, but this 6 belt Sigma thing, this thing is so complicated.
So this is a certification. So think about, I've been in the corporate space for a long time, right? So we always think about how can we execute flawlessly? So it's simple about a repeatable process, right? So what we're talking about is ensuring that whatever you're doing it at a highest level of efficiency. You are having repeatable process within your organization, within your processes, and that you're delivering at a very high level of precision without any issues, without any rework. It's really around cost saving, streamlining, but performing at your highest level.
Wow. So this has nothing to do with fraternity?
It has nothing to do with that. It's more from a processes, streamlining, performing at the highest level within organizations.
Thank you, Lisa. I understand that. Okay, but I want to say you do have an impressive resume. It took me some time to read through that. And so
Thank you.
Lisa is an all-around woman. So before we conclude this interview, Lisa, I've been very impressed with your performance.
Thank you.
Do you have a message for the community at large?
Yeah, thank you. Let me just say thank you so much, my brother, for this, interview, for this time to be with you, to share, the work that we're doing with the Rhode Island Black Business Association and the work that I'm doing with my team, with my company, Rhode Island RANGLIN and Associates LLC. So, let me just say this. One of the things that I did, so I left my corporate job in February, right? So think about that. What I would leave with my audience, the people that have been listening to us, your audience, is that we got to know our core values. We need to know our worth. We need to know our value. I decided to walk away from a six-figure job, right? A stable job, a job where I was deemed a high performer because I wanted more. And I also wanted to follow my passion. So what I would encourage people to do is to think about their strengths, what they're good at, and think about the legacy that they want to leave behind. For me, I am a change agent. So I decided I was no longer waiting for someone to tap me on my shoulder and said, the next assignment is ready for you. I decided that I was going to tap me. And I selected me, and I decided to scale this company. And what I want to use this as a blueprint for other women, Black women, to see that they need to lead with conviction. We are powerful. We are the most powerful person in the room. And we need to seize opportunity. There are lots of opportunities out there. We need to seize them. We need to be bold. We need to be brave. And we need to lead with passion. For me, I lead with conviction. I lead with passion. And we got to just love ourselves and love others and know that if we lead with passion and for the community for the right reason, we will be supported. So I encourage people, if you're out there and you're thinking about doing something and you may be stuck and you may be worried about what you should do, I say just do it. People have been so supportive of me on this journey, leaving the bank, a stable job. I've known the banking world for 20 plus years, right? And I decide to walk away from that. That's bravery in itself, right? And it's a lot of risk taker. I am a risk taker. I've managed risks. I understand risk management. I understand the ups and downs of, starting a business. I've worked with businesses for a very long time. I get it. But I think I am a part of that change, and I am prepared for this moment. And I am prepared to build a company that I hope will not just be a company here in Rhode Island, but RANGLIN and Associates will be a company that will be a global firm. My desire for my company is that it is going to do work not just here in Rhode Island, but across the nation, but also globally, as we talk about lifting, growing wealth, and moving people from poverty to sustainability. So I said, if you have a desire to do something, go out there and do it. Ask for people to help you. They will roll up their sleeve. They will help you. Don't need to do it alone. And the journey may get a little lonely and you may feel a little scared and what have you. That's okay. If you don't have butterfly in your stomach, then you're not even doing it. I say be bold, go out there and do it, and just lead with conviction. And if you do that, everything will fall into play. I am sure you're going to be very, very successful. And I expect to be successful. Anything that I've done, and I'm not bragging, but anything that I've done, I put God first. I always pray about the things that I do. And I find people that build around my team. I call them my board of directors, but these are like my mentors, my supporters, my advisors. And I build a team of people that support me. I come from a huge family. I have 3 sisters and 5 brothers. Right now, my parents, they are resting in eternal peace. But we have a huge family, and we're doing incredible work here in Rhode Island, and people recognize that. But I am from Jamaica, by the way, of Ghana, Jamaica. So I got some real African blood in me, and we're about performing at the highest level. So I am there, and I'm super excited. So I challenge all of us to make this change and do what we feel like we need to do to make things happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. You're also welcome to our show, and I hope that we can continue talking about Black business in Rhode Island, because that in itself is a change agent, and we need to bring that to the forefront of our community. Lisa, thank you very much for this interview. And
You're very welcome.
I'm sure my viewers, as I did, got a lot out of what you had to share with us.
Thank you so much. They can find me everywhere in social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, anywhere. I would love to connect with some of your viewers. Feel free to have them reach out to me. And I'd love to continue this conversation. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you too, Lisa.
You're very welcome. Take care.
Take care. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my interview with Lisa Rangling. She is the president of Rhode Island Black Business Association and also the CEO of Lisa Rangling and Associates. Make sure you get in touch with the Black Business Association. She threw her number out here. Make sure you check the phone books. Call 411. Get in touch with the Black Business and try to contact Lisa Rangling and see how she can help you build up your business in any way possible. This has been the Tony Commander Galpohkpa Chesson. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Hello, and welcome to the Pepperbird Magazine. Did you know that the Pepperbird Magazine has been in existence for over 25 years, and we're still going strong? I invite you to take an ad on our internet magazine, which is very, very useful during COVID days. So please, give us a call. We'll come and have a quick chat with you and video you and your business. Look at the number below.
Strive